I am a housewife and live with my husband and in-laws with our 5-year-old daughter. My husband is old-fashioned, perhaps because of his father's influence.
Where's the food? How dare you make us wait when we come home after working outside the home? You're just a woman who's supported by her husband. Don't tell me you're too lazy to do the housework.
My husband and father-in-law always do this just because the food isn't ready at exactly 7 p.m. My husband was kind before we got married, but then suddenly changed when we did, and then I became a housewife. And my mother-in-law and I live in constant fear of the two of them, who yell at us every day whenever something happens. My husband works for my father-in-law's company, so I only have time off when he goes on business trips. And to tell you, I was exhausted by my husband's constant arrogance.
Where are the chopsticks and tea? Yuki, you're a woman too. You're supposed to do the housework.
I'll do it. Just don't yell at Yuki.
She needs to learn how to do the housework from a young age, or she won't be a good woman.
But she's only 5. Don't push her.
Are you going against the man of the house? Stop getting so cocky.
At a sudden burst of anger, my husband throws the chopsticks at me. I picked the chopsticks in a hurry and headed to the kitchen to escape. I can't live like this anymore. But I can't worry my parents. As a woman living in a man's world, I can't even make a living as a housewife, taking my daughter and leaving home. I had to endure every day, even if it was hard. Then one day, I had to take my mother-in-law to the hospital. So I asked Yuki, my daughter, to stay at home because the examination would take some time. Yuki, sweetie, the snacks are on the desk. Be a good girl, okay? Okay, bye Mom. And to my horror, this was a big mistake. When I came home, the living room was empty. The drinks, snacks, all of it were still there. But Yuki, I thought maybe the 3 of them had gone out somewhere, but the shoes were still in the entrance. And so I went out into the yard and found Yuki lying there. Yuki, what's wrong? Yuki was covered with lots of laundry and clotheslines. Mom, sorry. The laundry. I saw the bruises on Yuki's face where she had been hit by the clothesline. I rushed to help her and headed to the hospital. Fortunately, there was no bone or brain damage, only minor bruising. But when I asked Yuki about it, I found out a terrible truth. When Yuki realized it was starting to rain, she decided she needed to get the laundry in, so she told my husband.
You're a woman. Do that on your own. You're interrupting my day off.
He said. Yuki tried to do something on her own, but there was no way a 5-year-old could handle heavy clothes soaked in the rain. And that's when the clothesline came down and hit her in the face, and she got stuck underneath. I'm sorry, Mom. I ruined the laundry. We can wash the laundry again. I would rather not have you get hurt, Yuki. So even if Dad says something, you don't have to do it, okay? And then I hugged Yuki, who was crying and apologizing. When we got back home, my mother-in-law ran up to me, worried to see her granddaughter with a poultice on her face. But I still couldn't find my husband and father-in-law. When I went upstairs, my husband and father-in-law were both taking a nap in their bedrooms. What do you think you're doing? Yuki got hurt because of you.
Nonsense! Is that something worth telling me when I'm sleeping? You're the one who didn't teach her how to do the laundry. How dare you complain to your own husband? How many times have I told you that housework is a woman's job?
Duh, I'm done with this. And finally, I came in contact with my senses. I decided to get a divorce and gathered evidence of verbal abuse and violence, then consulted a lawyer and then my parents. And then one day, after all the evidence had been gathered, I'm sorry, my back really hurts and I need you to take me to the hospital. My mother-in-law, who had been suffering from worsening back pain, asked me to take her in tears. I decided not to take Yuki with me because a cold was going around. Honey, you don't have to listen to your dad. If anything happens, call mom's phone, okay? And then I left Yuki behind. Fortunately, the hospital was empty and she was able to get examined quickly. My mother-in-law was admitted directly to the hospital to rest. I arrived home and was putting my car in the garage when I received a call from home. Hello? Yuki? Did something happen?
Mom, Dad and Grandpa are crying because some stranger is mad at them.
Okay, honey. Thank you. Just wait a little bit longer. I wonder who this stranger is. I cautiously opened the door to the house and headed into the living room. When I looked inside, there they were. My husband and father-in-law sitting on their knees crying. What happened? Oh, President.
Welcome back. Sorry for coming in. How's your mother-in-law?
The man in front of my husband and father-in-law was the president of a large company that does business with my father-in-law's company. I remembered his face because I met him several times. My mother-in-law was overworked and should be hospitalized and rested. But more importantly, what's going on here?
Dad told me to make tea for the president, but when I brought the tea from the fridge, he told me to make it hot. I told him that Mom said not to touch hot things because it's dangerous. Then Dad got angry and tried to hit me. Then the president got angry and made Dad and Grandpa cry.
I told you many times not to let Yuki do anything dangerous. What if she gets burned?
You let your young daughter do this all the time? This is abuse. This is absolutely unacceptable.
After hearing me say that, the president glared at them as if he was some demon. My husband and father-in-law flinched at his glare.
But men work outside the home and it's perfectly natural for women to do the housework. It's not abuse, it's discipline. That's right. At home, men should just stand tall. Absolutely not.
The president's thick voice coming from his stomach silenced them once again.
Supporting each other in life, that's what marriage is about. That's what husband and wife are supposed to do. If you don't rest, of course you'll break down. Can't you even understand that? I heard your wife is in the hospital. Isn't that because you made her work too hard?
That's right. I told him the truth, not caring about my father-in-law who was glaring at me. My mother-in-law has been doing the housework without a break for the past 40 years since they got married. And even if she took the slightest break, my father-in-law and husband would verbally abuse her. Her body is in bad shape, and her heart in shambles.
If you say women have to do housework without a break, then you were ready to work for 40 years without a break, aren't you? No, that's different. Were you forcing your wives to do what you can't do? I don't want to continue doing business with such a coward. Our contract expires at the end of this month. No! Our company won't last if that happens. I can't work with people I can't trust. If you two are willing to repent for what you've done and show some sincerity, then I'll consider it.
The two were in a panic at the talk of their contract suddenly getting terminated. If it were known that the contract was cut because of these family matters, the employees' trust would be ruined.
I'll do it. I'll get on my knees or whatever. That's what they're saying. But do you have any proposals?
I immediately responded to the president, who quietly asked me. I want a divorce, alimony, and child support. And father-in-law, please, let your wife go. Also, I'm leaving home with Yuki and my mother-in-law. They were surprised that I had said this, but their faces gradually turned red with anger.
Don't play dumb with me. Stop getting ahead of yourself. You're just a woman. Who's gonna listen to you?
The two of them, who were yelling at me in their usual tone, turned pale when they noticed the president's cold stare.
I seen your sincerity with my own eyes, and our contract ends this month.
And then, finally, the president left, leaving the two of them stunned. I, along with my daughter, decided to leave the house. The divorce finalized with alimony and property division using evidence that I had gathered. Later, when my mother-in-law came home from the hospital, we discussed the future. Do you want to go back to that life? I asked her, and she said she would rather divorce my father-in-law and live with us. A short time after the three of us left home, I began to receive voicemails from my husband.
Would you mind taking out the trash? I haven't washed my laundry in days, and there's bugs in the house. Come back. I'll forgive you if you come back.
And to my surprise, my ex-husband hasn't changed at all. I am now happily living with the three of us in a cheap company dormitory under the president's company. And I heard that my husband's company, after being cut out of the contract, is now in financial trouble. They must be struggling with reduced income. And of course, I have no intention of going back to the house with them. At best, I hope they live with the hardships of women's work, which they look down upon.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. What did you think of today's episode? Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on today's story. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe.